Hello, everybody. Welcome to the episode 15 of the Green Live. It's a great pleasure to have all of you here. And if you're new to this streaming, I want you to do a favor for me. Go to the comments and write new so we know that you're watching this and you're new to the channel. It's a great pleasure, as always, to have Carlos, Adriana, and Stamatia. Hello, everybody.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, Pedro.
Hi, Pedro.
Wonderful. So we continue this week with the reaction to the SAP Sustainability Summit. Last week, we had a very good episode where we went through all the sessions from the day one that was focusing on climate action. And this week, we have something special. We have something on the day two that will help you understand circular economy once and for all. It was amazing what happened there, several announcements, but more than that, a lot of inspiration for us to live a reality of innovation that has inclusion and also all the stakeholders into consideration. Well, perhaps, Samatia, we can start with you. What was the first session you covered this time?
Yes, so the first session was Reimagining Business for the Circular Economy. It was an interesting discussion. The guests were from a Mitsubishi Chemical Company and from Brewdog, a company that creates beer. The discussion was about the critical role of the business into the circular economy. So first thing was two companies, Mitsubishi Chemical Corporation and Brewdog, shared what they have changed so as to become more sustainable. Mitsubishi Chemical Corporation, they have changed their mission first, and the second thing, they have created a new department where it will be dedicated to circular economy. On the other side, Brewdog, they have changed the whole process of how they are creating the beer so as to be more sustainable. And in August 2020, they have achieved to become carbon negative. So we usually hear about carbon neutral, but they have achieved to become carbon negative. And the interesting thing is that they noticed that they have an increase of 30% in their businesses after they have done that changes. And this is a really great indicator that shows that consumers want to buy goods with purpose. So they want quality goods, they want nice goods to have, but they also look into the purpose behind it. Some other key insights.
Is a perfect moment to say that green products grow 5.6 times faster in the market than non-green products. So imagine if you're gonna take a beer, you have to choose between those two. One is carbon negative, and the other one is just gonna get you drunk.
So yes, a really nice example. And what are those things that that are required to drive scale in circular economy? So I would ask Carlos. Do you have?
She's challenging you right away, Carlos.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
right from the beginning.
very well. So which was the question again?
Let's see if you're a good student,
So the
Carlos.
question is, what is required to drive scale in circular economy? For example, one thing is that we all need to change our mindset and the way we live and the way we think about things. So what are other things that could drive the scale in circular economy, except from that?
Yes. So this mindset shift from a linear mindset to a circular mindset is very important, as you mentioned. But I think the critical thing here is that we need to create the markets for circular economy. So that is what is going to help skyrocket this from my perspective. This means that there's value in trash, for example. There's value in end of life products. So there are a whole new sections of the economy that we don't even imagine now, and that will be reignited when we all think with this circular mentality and not the linear one. Something like that could
Yeah.
be.
Well,
Yeah.
Carlos,
Yes. This.
yeah, go ahead, Samatia.
No. No. Pedro, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking maybe Carlos can connect that to the session that spoke about collective action in the race to zero.
Yeah, as soon as Tamatia finishes, I'll go for it.
Okay, so yes, Carlos, it is what you mentioned, but what else they mentioned was that technology is really important, and the innovations that are there, it's really important. And also they mentioned about partnerships, about collaborations with even with our competitors. They talk about funding, they talk about the support of the government, and also the need to increase the demand of the circular products. And what they mentioned, and it is a nice takeaway, is that where the consumers spend their money is what will drive the change. So there is a need to increase the demand for circular products. This is what they also mentioned.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes, now I can connect it, Pedro. The next session was about collective action in the race to zero, and we had three distinctive guests. The first one was the European Policy Center. These people help us understand and interpret policy, analyze those policy, and propose recommendations, not only to companies, but also to governments. And they say something very interesting. Policy can be very good or very bad. When it's good, it's good when it complies with two criteria. It can be enforced, and it has resources available to be complied with. This is very important. So for anyone, no matter if you're talking about a local government. And by the way, the other day I was talking together with the Madrid city of how they're putting together those regulations, but more importantly, how do they get the resources to make them fly. Now, another point that the European Policy Center was raising is how there's this new regulation for EPR. And if you're not familiar with these letters, this is the extended producer responsibility. So regulation for circular economy and regulation for EPR is necessary when it can be enforced and when it has the right resources. Then another guest was Shift Invest. These people put money into startups related to circular economy, and they were reflecting on a couple of interesting thoughts. One is, when is the return on investment required? And the other one is, how much capital do we need to allocate to these kind of ideas, to these kind of startups? Because when you think about technologies like, for example, fermentation technologies for for um, um, for energy or some other kind of ideas, they need a lot of capital, and you need to be patient. You need to stay there for the long run before you see your return on investment. It's not the typical quick fix. So these kind of startups around circular economy need a lot of people, a lot of organizations to support them. And the last guest was very interesting. This was Mike Barry, which is a consultant, and he basically said two things. The first thing is, his cry was, we need to price externalities. Now that China has refused to be the dumping ground for everybody else, we need to put a price on those externalities. What happens with all that trash? How much money does it cost to digest all that trash and put it back into the circular economy? And his other message was, the same way that we have, there's a little bit of background noise, I don't know why. The same way we have an approach to carbon, and we understand that everybody wants to be net zero, and we have a number of rules, for example, with science-based targets to know how to get there. We have some reporting rules with CPD. We have some financial risk identified with TCFD. We need to do this same thing that we did for carbon to resources to advance in the circular economy. So that's my report for this session.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Carlos. I think the next one is very important for SAP as well. It was a product perspective. Adriana, can you cover that for us?
Sure, absolutely. And I want to start with a fun fact, or maybe not so fun fact, not so funny fact, is the fact that basically circularity gap is widening, and the global economy is only 8.6% circular, and 2 years ago it was 9.1. So circularity gap is actually widening. So we need a lot of efforts to be put there. And this extended producer responsibility, it's a vital topic here for consumers, but also for companies, because they need to understand that the responsibility doesn't finish once they sell the product or once they bring it to a retailer. So it's very important to keep materials in use as much as possible at their highest value, together with reducing waste. So in order to reduce waste, we need to be able to design out waste since the beginning. Or whenever we cannot do that, we need to ensure that all that waste is not lost, because there is also a lot of value, like Carlos was saying. For example, 95% of plastic packaging it's lost, and this value, it's around $120 billion per year. It's a lot. And there is $4.5 trillion opportunity to move to a circular economy. So why not look at where we can source our materials from, and not only take virgin materials, but just reuse whatever we already have on the planet. Something that was very interesting in this session was also the product preview of SAP Responsible Design and Production, which it's one of the 4 main principles of circular economy. So we need to be able to design and produce products in a way that we design out waste, and that we recover and reuse as much as possible. So what can we do in that sense? And we starting with the packaging, but we will not stop there. We will continue also with batteries and also with the electronic equipment. As far as it regards this responsible design and production, of course, there's a lot to do, and it's different for every industry, but we're getting there.
And who are the speakers of that session?
Sure. So the speakers were Gunther Rothermel, Senior Vice President at S4HANA Sustainability at SAP, and James Sullivan, Head of Global Circular Economy Program at SAP, who actually did also the product review.
Wonderful. That's amazing. All right, I think the next session is pretty much well connected to that topic, right? We are talking about the move to circularity and the exploration of new business models to that. In that session was discussed that every business will need to transform to a sustainable enterprise eventually. And then they try to bring some examples for people to learn about the new business models driving circularity. Stamatia, can you make some comments of these speakers there?
Yes, it was a speaker from Adidas and a speaker from H&M. So Adidas mentioned that they are focusing a lot in customer experiences processes. So they're focusing a lot on the customer, and also on they are continuing learning new things. They think that innovation, collaboration, and partnerships is really, really important to achieve the circular economy, and they are trying to collaborate with others. And H&M on the other hand mentioned some new innovations are needed. The one is the digitalization of the physical products. And the second one is about the identification of ingredients of a product via scanning. There are some innovations there, but they are not so mature so as to use them at the moment. So these are 2 spaces for entrepreneurs to innovate.
Wonderful. And I think you also had a view on the circular economy innovations and industry perspective. What happened in that session?
Yes, they discussed about the sustainable batteries and electric vehicles. So first they referred to the Global Battery Alliance, GBA, which where also SAP is a member. It is an alliance that they are trying to establish a sustainable battery value chain. They have approximately 20 members. There are members from different industries and also from the government and the civil society. And they support collaboration to unlock innovation along the value chain. According to an analysis, and this is interesting, they mentioned that the 30% of the emissions from the power and the transportation can be reduced by batteries. It is something, this comes from an analysis from GBA. They also mention about the battery passport. It is a digital representation of the battery that measures the sustainable performance and reports the progress of the electric vehicle battery. And this is something that it will be finalized end of this year or maybe next year. And also they served two companies, BASF, and Audi in automotive. They served some interesting examples. For example, Audi served the example of aluminum closed loop, where they have established a process to extract the aluminum and loop it back to the suppliers. And VASP gave an example of how they have established a mechanism where they can somehow recycle plastic as a material. So this is really, really interesting. And the last thing, the last key takeaway, let's say, is that they mentioned that to reduce carbon dioxide, batteries are really important. But except from that, it's really important also the design of the product and the collaboration between the different stakeholders.
All right. And I understand they were really pushing ecosystem to be the way to go, right? And Carlos, they had one session on orchestrating ecosystem innovation for impact. Can you make some comments on that session?
Sure, very quickly. We were thinking about those business opportunities, and Stamatia was calling those entrepreneurs. This is a space for you to innovate. Okay, that's exactly what they did in this session. They took Queen of Raw, and they are specialists on taking unused textiles from different providers, what they call the dead stocks, and making sure that they give these stocks a new life and help people understand what is nice to have in clothing and what they have to have in clothing. Okay, so nice to have versus have to have to minimize our footprint. That's Queen of Raw. And the other company that they presented was Topolytics. I think we have talked about them. But basically, what they want to demonstrate is the value of waste, creating digital twins of those waste systems. So we at all times know what happens with the waste, what kind of waste, what's their location, and we can start thinking in a circular way to make sure that machine learning and geographical analytics help us closing the circle. That's what happened in this session.
Wonderful. And then, Adriana, we had another session on the substance reporting as the first step towards recyclability. Big names on those sessions. What happened there?
Yeah, so this is going back to the chemical part and electronics, even, or automotive. So, well, you might have imagined, you might have realized that electronic devices are actually outnumbering humans, and this is triggering a surge in the e-waste. Yeah, and you might imagine that also these electronic devices are containing lots of substances, and many of them are highly regulated because we need to take care of how because they can be dangerous for us. So it's very important to do substance reporting, and if our customers' products are used for electronics, or if they produce electronics, then they need to do substance reporting. And this is happening since January 2021. It's mandatory for these companies to send data to what is called the SCIP database, substances of concern for products, for different articles or products. And whenever you import or you sell products from the EU that use one of the regulated substances, you need to send data to this database. They also talked about how SAP product compliance can help with the substance reporting, and how also the solutions that was built by DXC technology can help with the compliance data exchange between suppliers and the companies. And it is very important that we have transparency in the supply chain, but also from governments and industries, because they need to be more transparent. They need to track and trace all these substances, report on that, and also to be more holistic in all they do.
Wonderful. That's great. And when they started the second part of the day 2, I found it very interesting, right? They were really trying to bring this idea of why now for the whole topic of sustainability. And they invited a sailor, actually a woman called Emily Penn. She's from the X Expedition, and was very interesting kind of the perspective she brought on raising awareness of trillions of microplastics covering the surface of the oceans. She mentioned there in that story a huge journey that she has been through in the oceans. And basically what she wanted everybody there is actually to understand what is the impact of these microplastics in our health, right? And basically to stop plastic at the source itself. And I'm gonna share with you now this initiative that was also presented. It's a collaboration between SAP and her organization. It's called Shift. And if you're interested, you can go into shift.how. And here you will find different solutions on the topic of plastic, right? And every solution here will be somehow filtered across different areas. So you can have here, if you want to do a swap, if you want to communicate, participate. It's very, very interesting how they have put all these assets together in order to really create awareness of everything that has to do with plastics. Here an example on replacing plastic food sachets with seaweeds. Very interesting. I never heard of that, and they cover the benefits of doing this, what are the challenges, and how that makes a difference. So in a nutshell, I think everybody, that was a great session to kind of remember, the importance of us, taking action on plastic. And here's a topic that I'm sure is close to the heart of Carlos, a world of 3 zeros: zero emissions, zero waste, and zero inequality. Do you want to make some comments on the world of 3 zeros, Carlos?
Well, I think you mentioned this because, for starters, there's a book that is called The World of 3 Zeros. And then during the last few months, and I think a year and a half, we have been presenting this idea of the world of 3 zeros to customers around the world, not only in EMEA South. So it's something close to our heart. A world of zero waste, a world of zero energy loss, a world of zero poverty.
Wonderful. And in that session, what I found interesting as well is this moment where she called everybody to reflect about the moment we are, and calling everybody for action in rebuilding the future and shifting to zero waste. For me, it was a very interesting session, super simple and small, but really created this interesting environment. Now, moving forward, Stamatia, the next session was Reimagining Industries in a Circular Economy. And as everybody know, SAP is big into industries, and now claiming the reimagination of industries is a big statement. What happened in that session, Stamatia?
Yeah. Julie White, the SAP Marketing and Solutions Officer from SAP, shared some interesting numbers. So she mentioned that then in 2019, only the 9% was recycled, and the rest, the 91%, resulted in waste. She also shared that the plastics waste are expected to triple by 240. This is really huge. And also the 61% of the world population do not have access to waste management infrastructure. So these are some really disappointing numbers. And she also mentioned that what we should do, we should systematically reduce waste, we should increase usability, connect with entrepreneurs, with individuals, with communities, and also technology can help. We all know that SAP touches the 77% of the financial transactions. SAP is specialized on different industries and has also a critical role in the supply chain. We as SAP, we can enable our customers to embed sustainability into the whole business processes. We have the technology, we have the solutions on that. And except from that, she invited two entrepreneurs to talk. There are two people. The one was the founder of Reply, and the other one was the founder of Earthcommerce. They both came from SAP IO. So they built their idea within SAP. For Reply, for this solution, what it does actually, it connects the dots between people that have the material and people that need the material within their organization. So within your organization, instead of purchasing a new material, you can just enter Reply and search someone from your company that has that material and can sell it to you. Earthcommerce, it is a sustainable materials marketplace, and it gives end-to-end cross-industry trading platform. So what they mentioned, and was a main key takeaway actually, it is that the world is doing a good job in the linear model. We know how to bring products to the customer, to the consumers fast. They are not doing a good job in this circular model. So the next step and the next thing that most of the new businesses will focus is to be good now also to the circular model and not only to the linear.
And then, Carlos, they were very interested in explaining how to deliver that to customers.
Correct. And for that, we had a conversation with Accenture, and Accenture stressed the importance of this combination, technology plus sustainability. They said that sustainability is the new digital. And what is this beyond a nice sentence? It's really that we have found an incredibly strong use case for digitalization. So we have found the ultimate purpose for digital, and that is called sustainability. And that's why there's this big wave to save our planet and to merge it with the digital efforts that we were doing in the past. Now, he also mentioned a couple of things. He said, okay, once you announce your objectives on sustainability, every time you do cost cutting, you need to explain the effects that it has on your sustainability objectives. Every time you do a new investment, you need to explain the effects that it has in your sustainability objectives. So basically, you need to explain the relationship between the value that you create and the values that you have. And this connection, this is what makes sustainability so strong. Then the World Economic Forum also have an initiative for circular economy, And basically, they remark something that we all need to think about, is that 50% of all emissions are embedded in materials. So why is circular economy so important? Because we are not gonna be carbon neutral if we don't take care of all those emissions that are embedded in the materials, and that's why circular economy is that important. Over to you, Pedro.
Great. And then also big announcements coming on the product perspectives. Adriana, once again, you've been looking into the session called Delivering on our SAP Sustainability Management, enabling customers long-term success. So perhaps SAP is thinking of sustainability as a way for connecting to the strategic objectives of customers in the long term.
Absolutely. So this session was all about resuming, let's say, absolute facts about environmental issues, circular economy, climate action, why we need to act now, and what is our ambition at SAP and how we can help our customers. So just to name a few facts, because there were so many, the environmental risks are expected to cause $120 billion chain reaction for companies by 2026, and carbon management could deliver 26 trillion dollars in economic benefits by 2030, generating more than 65 million jobs. Especially in the pandemic's environment that we are living, I think this is very important. It's a way for us to recover from that and also do better. And not only 61% of the world population doesn't have access to waste management infrastructure. That's amazing. I didn't expect it. And something which is very important is that if our customers would adopt the solutions that we are proposing, of course, with some typical assumptions for that kind of adoption, SAP customers would have the potential to manage roughly 20% of the global GHG emission and 30% of the global packaging waste per year. So that's already pretty much. And if you consider that 45% of GHG emission is coming from consumer industries and manufacturing, you can also understand why SAP is directing some of its efforts into that direction. So they have also mentioned again what is our ambition and what are the products that we are proposing in this summit. So first of all, we had Climate 21 with product footprint management, which is helping our customers to reduce GHG emissions by start to measuring it and understand where they can make it more efficient across the value chain and exchange data with customers, but also with business partners. Second, we had circular economy and responsible design and production. They talked about the plastic-free ocean by the 2030. We have lots of initiatives in that space, how we can design out waste and pollution, how we can keep products and materials in use for longer, and how we can help the natural systems to regenerate. Because right now we are using basically 2 Earth planets and we only have one, as we all know. And the third product announcement, very important as well, is the corporate sustainability reporting and steering, which is all about integrated and holistic reporting and steering, bringing together the corporate but also the product impact.
Great.
And here was speakers, just to mention who talked about this. It was again Gunther Rottermelf, S4HANA Sustainability Senior Vice President, and Anita Varshni, the Global VP for Strategy and S4HANA Sustainability.
Great, Adriana. It's a great coverage. Well, now I'm very proud because one of the sessions called Tackling Transparency and Inclusion was covering an EMEA South success story from Ghana. They were actually presenting the Ghana's ambitious plan to minimize plastic waste. And basically, they started that session in a very interesting way, talking about the different reality of waste management in the African countries. There, you have a very important player in the overall life cycle of plastics, which are the waste reclaimers or the waste pickers or the plastic pickers, they call it. They have different names there. But basically, they are working with those waste reclaimers in order to find a solution. Here, they see the value of plastic as in its entire life cycle, even after its use. And Dow Chemicals was one of the invited presenters in this session here. They have been asked, right? So why you would be part of this type of initiative? And basically they spoke about the responsibility as a raw material supplier of plastics. There they also discuss the commitments they have to reuse and also recycle those materials, and basically through the network that they have created in partnership with SAP, this could be a reality, right? And they were thinking of this initiative as a leapfrog towards circular economy for Ghana. So overall, as main takeaways here, technology network can enable inclusion of all stakeholders towards waste management. And that was proven by using the ability of cloud software to connect all stakeholders in a consortium of companies, creating a marketplace for that plastic that is collected. And when they mentioned this is inclusive, I also noticed that, of course, it's inclusive, right? Because they must have the waste reclaimers in order for making this network to work, right? So they mention the initiative including all the small, medium businesses and all those individuals that are creating revenue income for them out of this process. But as a matter of fact, there is no solution without involving them. Very interesting case from EMEA South itself. Anybody have any comment on that session?
Yeah, one comment from myself. I was also very impressed about what they did there, and they're extending this to other countries in Africa, which is great work that our colleagues over there are doing. What I also liked is the fact that they are making sure that these waste pickers are getting the right treatment, and they can sell the plastic at the right price. So in this marketplace, they are also advised on what is the right price to sell the plastic for them.
Great. And then, Stamatia, the next session is the growth of recommerce to better manage our waste. It also talks about this marketplace concept. Can you cover that?
Yes, of course. So the two guests were Natasha from Ion and from a person from Reloop and by SAP. So Reloop is created by a team that comes from SAP labs in India. So, and Ion is an SAP solution in our ecosystem. So they talked about the digitalization of the physical products and what are the benefits and how they can unlock new revenue streams. So, and what Ion has done they have created a digital twin of a physical product. So post sales, brands can connect to the customers, and they can also manage and track the product after the sale. The other thing is that they can loop back the product to recommerce. So what are the benefits? The benefits are that the brands can scale circular business model transformation. They can increase their brand's revenue, and also they can increase the customer loyalty. And except from that, they will be compliant with the regulations, because in fashion we will have some new regulations that are coming. And the second innovation is Reloop, which is a sustainable platform for digital e-waste value chain. So it is a network for e-wastes, and they are connecting manufacturers, retailers, and certified recyclers on one single platform. So the business can manage the e-waste by recycling, and also the manufacturers can source secondary raw materials.
And then they want to extend that to producer responsibility, right, Carlos?
Correct.
Tell me about that session.
Very good. So the first speaker was Nestle, um, and then they reflected on they are ready to pay for packaging materials end of life costs. This is statement. I mean, imagine you have been with this linear mindset all your life producing, and then it's not your problem. And then as a company, you accept that you have created that that's your problem, that you're ready to pay for that. That's a big statement. um, they need, however, to gather lots of data, the weight, the materials, and they need to do this per location, per community, because EPR, extended producer responsibility, is different in each country depending on the regulation. So they not only have packaging materials that are produced by suppliers that have SAP ERP, but also by suppliers that do not have SAP ERP. So they really need to drink from many different data sources. Their view on the availability of recycled materials at the end of the product is something that is not good at this time. They don't know which recycled materials they can count on. So they see that there's a lot of development in this space. They are also trying to understand the tax implication of producing something that is not green, the profitability implications that to produce something that is recyclable or non-recyclable. They're learning all this, and they are suffering because they said something that is an eye opener. They said all our systems were designed to report on finance. Our systems were not designed to report on sustainability. So we have to recreate all this wealth of uh, sustainable profitability and profitable sustainability that we have talked about many times. And then also SAP was invited to the panel. It's good that we invite ourselves to our own panels. And they said that we need to match what happens in the upstream with what is happening in the downstream. What happens with the materials and at end of life is very related of how we plan and how we design those products in the upstream operations at the beginning of their life. And we have talked about topolytics and green token, but that's a perfect place to explain this, because topolytics is the downstream, what happens with the materials at the end of life, and green life is an upstream at the beginning of their lives to make sure that we have the traceability of how we produce, where that materials are coming from, and which of them are green or not green. So I think these two sides of the equation, upstream, downstream, topolytics, green token, is something very interesting that I learned in this session. That's all from my side.
And then finally, we had one last session, Adriana, that they were trying to demonstrate how to accelerate the sustainability outcome. Can you cover that?
Yes, sure. And this one here, we also had Green Token speaking that Carlos was mentioning, which is one of our startups. As you might already know, SAP is helping startups to develop their ideas through investments, through mentorship, and so on. And they came with a great idea of being able to track and trace all these commingled materials that are not handled in batches, but they are handled in bulk, yeah, which can be plastic, which can be liquids, even palm oil, minerals, whatever it's wood, metal, but even things like human rights, which are even more difficult to track and trace along the value chain. So this is very important, since it turns out that in the next 20 years, we will produce globally as much waste as from the last century altogether. That's a lot. And we also had in that session Eastman Chemical, which is a customer of Green Token, and they explained how they collaborate with the Green Token for replacing fossil raw materials with plastic waste, using the principle of mass balance, and also track and trace it all along the value chain, and how these green tokens are moved along the value chain, and how you can state that one plastic bottle that you have produced is made up 50% recycled content and 50% virgin material. And Eastman even made an example of how this plastic bottle can cost. So a plastic bottle which is made out of virgin plastic costs for them $12, and another one which is made of 50% recycled content costs between $15, yeah, which is 25% more. And this is a premium price, yeah. We're talking about reusable plastic bottles, of course, otherwise we would not pay that amount of money. And you have to know that consumers are willing to pay more for something which is greener, actually. And at EMEA South, we have also done research, by the way, on sustainable consumption, and we can talk more about that. We came with some very interesting insights out of that. Another highlight from this session is that McKinsey estimated that there is over $55 billion worth of plastic waste in the world. So this is a profit pool. So why should we use virgin plastic and pay it all the time when we can use the plastic that we already have out there and recycle it? So we need to find a way to turn that plastic that is already there into feedstock and reuse it infinitely. And Green Token is able to help our customers to use that feedstock and also be able to track and trace and demonstrate at the end of it that they are actually using recycled content. And on this journey, Eastman, of course, committed also on some numbers. So they want to be carbon neutral by 2050 and to recycle 250 million pounds of plastic waste per year by 2030. There are lots of use cases behind this, and I mentioned all commingled materials, all liquid materials, everything that doesn't come into batches, everything that is bulk materials, oil, palm oil, minerals, even plastics, of course, metals, wood, and so on. So very interesting to have a look in that. And whenever there is no batch handling of a certain material, Green Token is there to help our customers to track and trace everything.
Great. Well, I think it was a huge ride, and the last session was actually the closing. They were mentioning it was 41 sessions with 49 speakers, approximately 2,000 participants on 720 hours of content. One of the things they also created that I found very cool, let me share with you as well, is this sustainability impactometer. And what's cool about that is apart from measuring the number of attendees, they were also comparing the summit that was virtual to as if it was a physical summit. And as you can see here, as this was a virtual summit, the consumption of total CO2 was 36 tons. And in this case here we have, in a physical one, 1,396. It's a huge difference, something that we could think of the future of the events industry when it comes to sustainability as well. Another interesting statistic is to look at the regions. So out of the regions here, MEE, we had 757 participants. In EMEA, 586, Americas 407, and APJ 198. I'm not saying this is an indication of interest of the topic of sustainability across regions, but it's interesting to see how those numbers really go here. And yeah, in a nutshell, I think that's pretty much it. They were very clear about this will continue on the SAP Sapphire now, which is coming now in June. So I'm very excited that very soon we'll have even more information about sustainability from SAP coming from the Sapphire now. And one also very interesting thing they announced there is the new SAP Sustainability and Purpose landing page. So everybody, if you go to the SAP website, you will find this page here that pretty much brings different information on sustainability, making sustainability profitable and profitability sustainable, different assets that you can go through and things that are aligned to the United Nations goals and everything that you can find on sustainability. Another campaign that was launched right after the SAP Sustainability Summit is this Chasing Zero. Very cool video that I urge everybody to have a look. And it's a very interesting way for us to have an impact, is Chasing Zero. And obviously, the SAP at Expo 2020 in Dubai is going to be the theme of sustainability for 2020 worldwide. And I'm sure we will all be here covering that all together. Wow. So we had to have 2 sessions of 2 hours in order to cover 2 days of events full of, speakers and activities. Really amazing. Any final comments there?
Well, we are just waiting for you to ask us what is going to be the next session about.
Yes, wonderful. So there you go. What's going to be our session next week, Carlos?
Well, we were discussing a couple of ideas. So if for our viewers, if they have any opinion, we were discussing about regulation, and in particular new regulation CSRD for all corporations above 250 employees, what they need to report, what is new, how to do that. That's something hot. Another one is that, as you may know, we have launched research on sustainability consumers. So we could also dig deeper into that. What do you think, Stamatia and Adriana, where we should go for?
I would vote for the sustainable consumption one.
Vote sustainable consumption. What about you, Stamatia?
I like both, but okay, I can take sustainable consumption. It's a topic that I like in any case.
Well, I have a suggestion. Why don't we really talk about the sustainable consumption patterns that was found with the research, but also start a little bit, covering the new regulation, because, as everybody know, this is one of the biggest, drivers of sustainability right now is new regulation and the pressure for companies. So maybe we can dedicate part of the conversation to introduce what are those new regulations, and then in the next call we can deep dive on that. Make sense?
Yeah, we could even make it together, like you said, because these are drivers. One driver is regulation, and the other driver is what our consumers are looking at. So
perfect. I would totally go for that. And thank you so much, everybody. I think if you're watching until now, it means you're really interested on sustainability. Thank you so much for your time so far. And I hope to see you in our next bi-weekly our weekly Green Live. That's it, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.